We are here in Miami at the Tri-Rail station. Let's just play along with me here. Game is just finished. We just watched Inter Miami beat up on Orlando right here at Miami Freedom Park. Yes, this is the Tri-Rail station right next to Miami Freedom Park. If you want to know how we got here, go check out our previous travel video where we showed how we got here using Brightline. Now, luckily this was a day game. So luckily I could hop on the Tri-Rail, head back north to the Deerfield station, which is close to my home in Coconut Creek. And it's a much cheaper option. Now, caveat is, Tri-Rail currently does not run late. So in our make-believe world, this was a day game. So not a problem. We could take the Tri-Rail. Now the Tri-Rail has stayed open, running late for special events. Maybe Inter Miami will make such a deal with Tri-Rail once the stadium's done. We know they have a deal with Brightline. Not sure if it's going to be a conflict of interest, but this is a much more economical, affordable way to get to Miami Freedom Park from anywhere north, because it drops you off right in front of the stadium. Let's go I'll take you with me on my experience riding the Tri-Rail. First time I've ever ridden the Tri-Rail will be right now. Here's a Tri-Rail station, and then right over here, just on the other side of the Sheraton building. The Sheraton building is currently blocking our view of Miami Freedom Park, but it's right there. Very easy access. They will be building a bridge or a pathway, a walkway from here to the stadium. It's in the plans. Let's hope it actually gets built. I don't think it'll be part of phase one, but hopefully it will get built for easy access across the street to the stadium. Here's the machine that I used to purchase my ticket. I bought a one-way pass. I know there's deals that you can get. Here's some of the pricing that you can get. It's much, much cheaper. But I got a one-way pass to Deerfield Beach, which ended up being $5. So this trip will be only $5 to go on a train from Miami Airport all the way to Deerfield. So similar to what we did on our Brightline video, we really don't know what we're doing here. So we're gonna go and figure it out as we go. But luckily, this is a one train ride. I just gotta figure out on where to go, what train, get on the right train. That's the real challenge here. So right off the bat, Tri-Rail is a little bit different in that there's no one really here to help you navigate if you're on the right train. I think I'm on the right train. I think I'm going north. I'm not 100% sure, but me and another passenger were trying to figure it out. So I think we're on the right train, but there are zero people here to help you. So that's interesting. You kind of have to just know your way around. All right, we finally figured out we are on the right train because there was only one train. There was only one option. Apparently, not knowing anything about public transportation. Doing this so you can learn. Tri-Rail doesn't go further south than Miami International Airport. Now, a lot of you guys may have already known that. I didn't know that. So now we're moving slowly, but we're now moving. There are quite a few stops though here on this train. So you can see these are all the stops we're gonna have to make. You can see back down here is where we're starting. We gotta go all the way up to where this line is right here, the top of Broward. So, and there's gonna be a lot of stops. We'll have to see how long the stops are and really how long this trip takes. We just made our first stop, which was in Hialeah. So good news there was that the stops were really, really quick. It was like a minute, maybe 2 minutes at the most. Quick stops, so that's good. Because there are a lot of stops on this trip. And it says, wow, it is a bumpy ride though, let me tell you. It says it's a little over an hour to get to Deerfield Beach. So that's not too bad. You know, if you're going to drive with traffic, it's probably going to take an hour or more because traffic can definitely add more time to that. So not a bad travel time. So this train also has Wi-Fi. So while you're making your bumpy ride down to the stadium or from the stadium back home, you can also watch a game. Here I'm watching the highlights for Charlotte against New England, since our next opponent in the MLS will be Charlotte. So I was like, let's see how Charlotte's doing, but I can enjoy a game while riding the Tri-Rail. Can't do that if I'm driving. Now we're cruising. Now we're moving fast. Just a thought: if you haven't been on Tri-Rail before and are curious, just know it's a little dingy. It's a little dirty. It could use some cleaning. You come on here, you might want to bring your own wet wipes to wipe down some areas. It is. But if you're familiar with public transportation from other cities, if you come from another state, or if you come from New York, you might be used to it. I don't know. So you could just see it's just a little dated, a little dingy. Seats are well worn. Some gross stuff next to me that I don't want to touch. But, it is a little dirty, but it's cheap. We are near Golden Glades. We just left Opelika a little bit, so we're getting close to Broward County. And it's only been about 15 minutes or so. So not bad. So let's look at the pricing. Let's think about this, if this is worth it. Now, you could do a couple different things. Let's assume Inter Miami does not work out a deal with Tri-Rail. Okay, let's say they only have a deal with Brightline. You could take Brightline. It's more expensive. But if you still want to do somewhat of a budget, you could take the Tri-Rail down from anywhere north of the stadium. I'm going Deerfield, but look, if you're in Hollywood or, anything, you could take the Tri-Rail down. And for me, from Miami Airport to Deerfield Beach, Boca Raton, Delray, those three exits basically cost me $5. Now, when you take that into account, how much it costs to park, it costs $50 to park at Chase Stadium. You assume it's going to cost the same amount of money at Miami Freedom Park or more. It could cost $60. It would not shock me if that happens. So this is definitely way more economical. If you have time, it's going to take you a little longer, but I could take the Tri-Rail down, and then for $5. And then if for example the Tri-Rail is not running late, because currently it does not, if it doesn't run late, I could take the Brightline, do a one-way trip from Brightline from Miami back up, and that cost me somewhere in the $20 range, $21 range, or something like that. So in total, I will be then spending about $26, half the price of parking. Now, half the price of parking if you buy a day of, right? If you're a season ticket holder currently, as a season ticket holder, I could buy my parking in advance, and by buying it in advance, I get it at half off. So that's $25. So I'm paying for parking at Chase Stadium for $25. So at this point, that would be kind of a break even, 25 versus 26, pretty close. But then you take into account the gas. So I'm going to spend around $6 to $10 on gas. So now doing a Tri-Rail Brightline hybrid is cheaper. And you just have to have more time available, but it's definitely a cheaper option. So I might really consider that. Now, if Inter Miami does work out a deal with Tri-Rail, and I could take Tri-Rail to and from, if they ran the Tri-Rail trains later into the evening, if they do that kind of a deal with Inter Miami, and it's a total of maybe $10 round trip, and if it's not a holiday, it could be cheaper. I don't know, but let's say max price, it's $10 for me to go round trip on Tri-Rail. Please, Inter Miami, work out a deal with Tri-Rail. Tri-Rail, you want to build that bridge, so get us the bridge from the Tri-Rail station to the stadium. and let us take Tri-Rail. Let us take Tri-Rail. It's so much cheaper, and they just got to work out that deal. Now the issue here is they do have a deal with Brightline, and that may compete. There may be a problem there. They may not be able to make a deal with two different train lines that are technically competing, right? And one being the cheaper. But in a sense, are they really competing? Because, people from Boca, for example, they don't want to take Tri-Rail. Yeah, they got, a little fancier. They're going to take Brightline. Brightline is much nicer, no question. But if you're looking to save a buck or a bunch of bucks, Tri-Rail's the way to go. So let's just hope Inter Miami works out that deal with Tri-Rail, so Tri-Rail runs later. Because currently it only runs till like 8 or 9 p.m., and that's it. So it would only currently work on your travel down to Miami. Wow, that's bumpy. All right, so we're just now leaving the Fort Lauderdale Airport stop. So we went from one airport to the other in about, 45 minutes or so? Something like that. And the time goes fast because you have some, you're just looking out the window, watching the road go by, the ugly buildings go by. I mean, it's not the most attractive trip, but, it's something to look at. So time goes by, and it was a pretty quick 45 minutes. So at this point, we don't have that many more stops before our exit. All right, here we are. We decided to get off at Pompano Beach Station, instead of Deerfield, just figuring that it might be a little bit closer to my house. So we, there's several options. There was the Cypress Creek, there's the Pompano, or there's the Deerfield. So really, and they're all pretty close together. So it was all just a matter of which one was closer. So we chose to get off at Pompano. So thoughts on Tri-Rail? I don't have a problem with it. Is it a little dirtier? Yes. Should you bring some hand sanitizer? Yes. But it is markedly cheaper. It is much cheaper than driving, and it is much cheaper than using any other kind of service like Brightline. It is the cheaper option, and it gets you there in roughly the same amount of time. Slightly longer, only slightly longer. It's noisy, it's bumpy, but it'll get you there. Like I said, it's noisy and it's bumpy, but it will get you there in a timely manner. So, I think taking the Tri-Rail is a real contender, and I would definitely consider doing that in the future. It just all depends, again, if they run it later so that it makes sense for game day. But it's a viable option on getting down to Miami in a timely manner. It may be around the same amount of time as if you drove. Now, for me, driving from my house, I live near some highways, so it takes me on a Sunday, for example, it takes me about 45 minutes to get to the stadium. But on a game day, you could probably get add a little more time. It might take about an hour, same as this. So I think this is definitely a viable option, and that I'll consider. And let me know in the thoughts down below what you think about taking the Tri-Rail. $5 for me, one each way. Very cheap. It's a good option, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts down below. Future Peter here to jump in at the tail end of this video with some news that ended up in our lap just a couple of days after filming this video. Let's get into it. Florida's successful commuter rail could cease operation in 2 years after FDOT abruptly decreased its annual subsidy of Tri-Rail from around $42 million to $15 million in July. This could be the end of the 80-mile rail line. Basically, it gets down to that Governor DeSantis in June approved a state government budget that was negotiated by the Florida lawmakers that claimed the state allowed it to slash its contributions. So the Tri-Rail officials say FDOT's interpretation of this law is wrong, and has been trying to persuade the Transportation Department and state lawmakers to restore funding for the rail service, which carried over 4.5 million people across South Florida over the past year, a record amount in the past year. So it's unsure right now what the future of the Tri-Rail. So it got its budget cut considerably, and they don't feel like they can operate on $15 million. They that is quite a big cut. So it says here that David Bowman, of investigative reporter for Fox 29 in West Palm Beach, reports in the source article that the rail line, which began service in 1989, did not realize it went that far back, faces a very uncertain future. Right now, they say the chances of the train service surviving the cuts are 50-50. So the idea of taking the Tri-Rail to Miami Freedom Park, yeah, it might work next year. It might not work the year after that. We'll have to wait and see how this develops over time. But for now, the option to take the Tri-Rail is still available, and it is the cheapest option out there to get to Miami Freedom Park from any place north. So it's a great option, but we just have to hope that the funding gets reinstated back into the Tri-Rail. Final thought. I came up with a hybrid option. If you remember, I said you take the Tri-Rail down to the game, $5, and then take the Bright Line back home, going north to either Fort Lauderdale, Boca, or even West Palm Beach, is an option. But you do have to keep in mind, they are different stations. So if you are driving yourself, for example, if you drove your car to the Pompano Tri-Rail station and parked your car, which may be free, sometimes it's free, then, taking the Bright Line to Fort Lauderdale or to Boca, your car's not going to be there. It's a different station. So you're either going to have to take an Uber to where your car is, or just Uber on both ends, like Uber from your house to the train station, Uber from the Bright Line to your house. But that's an added cost. Now you start thinking, oh, maybe it's not worth it. Or you have someone drop you off. If you've got, like, say, a family member that's not going to the game with you, if they're cool with dropping you off and picking you up like 4 or 5 hours later, because let's be honest, we're going to go to the game early and enjoy ourselves. We're going to tailgate a little bit. We're going to do whatever. It's going to be like 4 or 5 hours. We're going to be good. So it's an option. Let me know what you think down below.